the second episode of SYSTA, Sell Your Soul to Art. Today we're having our guest. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, of course. My name is Luis Perez Vanos.
And where are you from?
So I was born in Mexico, but I live in the US.
You have a background in art.
So my background, through high school, I never took any art classes, but I was always interested in it. I did go to art school or art college in Boston, Massachusetts, which is where I live now. So as far as my education, I just went to art school, but I was interested in art while I was growing up. I just never took any, art classes.
What led you to your current art style?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty interesting actually because as a kid I would draw a lot of I guess you could say sequential art or comic book artwork, and essentially I was very inspired by manga. And a lot of manga is black and white. So I pretty much just drew with black and white for the majority of my growing up as a child. Um and even when I got to art school, um especially those two first years, I really just stuck to black and white, and I had to find a way to, make black and white seem exciting. And basically, I mean, I never drew this way because I was interested in sequential art, and that's what I was pursuing. But one day I basically took like a painting class, just a random elective, and that just changed everything for me. I started just, going to museums. I fell in love with like impressionist painters, and that's kind of what made me realize that I could really, I mean, it really did influence my style. I know I don't have the same subject matter as like a lot of the impressionist painters, but funny enough, that's kind of what changed everything from me. Yeah, so that's what it was. Yeah, I used to draw very like, I don't know how to say it, very rigid, like a clean pen style, But throughout the years, I mean, I think just naturally that's what started happening, just more spontaneous, if you will.
Because from what I can see, like your artwork is more expressive. It's more like expression.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's what happened. What happened to me is that I started art college, and that first year was I almost hated drawing. I don't know what happened to me, but I was just so what I was doing is that I was just drawing and trying to get assignments done, and then just whatever. And then on the side, music had always been a passion for me, so I would just like with a loop pedal and a guitar pedal. I mean, a guitar. I would just make like instrumental music. And I think what was happening was that I needed an outlet for expression, and music was that outlet. And that's what happened with that painting class is I took that painting class sort of as like an easy elective. And then I realized that I could use art as a way to express myself because I used to be very like, you know, my idea of being an artist was basically just providing a service, as like a freelancer, if you will, because that's what I was interested in. But that's essentially what happened. It's just like discovering and realizing that you could use art. I know it sounds silly because most people view it that way, but I didn't see it that way. But once that clicked, that's when it changed. And yeah, you could say it became more expressive, exactly. So yes, I would describe it as expressive or expressionism.
How would you describe your art to someone unfamiliar with it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I mean, if it's like, if it's an artist, I think um it may be I almost feel like it would be easier because it's just that when you're talking to someone who's, not necessarily not an artist, but like a person who's not really into art, I just keep it. I mean, it's just much harder to describe because I don't really like to say it's like, oh, it's scary. I understand it comes across that way, but I think I'm desensitized to it, so I don't see it as scary, because I stare at it all the time. So, but I guess to a normal person, if I show them my artwork, I guess they would say, oh, um, it's scary. I guess I prefer to say where it's like bizarre but I think like some surrealism, I think I might do with that. I'd rather just show them an image because, yeah, it's difficult.
What themes or messages are you trying to convey through your work?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that, so what it is, it's basically just, sort of appreciating, the darker sides of life and sort of finding maybe a sense of beauty in it. Um, I'm very interested in like psychological elements and just, you know, the depravity of humanity or what it means to be a human. Um, just things like that. But I guess my overall message is that you know, life can be, difficult and tragic, but it can also be beautiful at the same time just because of some, specific moments. So I think it's worth living. So that's really the overall message, is.
Can you walk us through your creative process? How does an idea go from the concept to a finished piece?
Sure. I guess it would depend if I'm doing my own thing or, for a client or a commission, stuff like that. Um, Either way, I think, you know, if you keep it spontaneous, splatter some things around. If you don't know what to draw specifically, like you can, I keep it spontaneous, and through there I find something, um, an image I see, and that splatter or mess of, brush strokes, and then I essentially work through that until I arrive to something that I think looks decent enough.
So from a splatter to something creative and something from your soul, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen, quite a few artists end up doing that because it really it helps art not be so mechanical and like but the reality is that
Restricted.
sometimes, yeah, and yeah, yeah, like keeps its spontaneity. But I will say that obviously at some point I want to draw, but I want to make something that I'm thinking about, and actually um it's not always going to be like just throw splatter and then figure something out. Like sometimes I do need to have intent to like, well, I want to do this specific figure right here and then another figure. It just depends. But I try to keep it as, as you say, like expressive, um, as possible.
Yeah. How do you deal with creative blocks or challenges in your process?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things about the like the first process that I was mentioning, how just yeah, it can be hard. So, like, it's funny, but yeah, creative block really is a thing where you sit down and you almost feel like, well, you're doing the same thing. So I actually think what really helps, aside from the spontaneity of just, throwing stuff around, just looking at other art, and you'd be surprised how many compositions and how many ideas you can. It helps to look at other artists because it really makes you think, wow, actually, there are a lot of things I can do with art, and so I think that helps.
What role does experimentation play into your work? Do you push boundaries or explore new techniques?
Yes, definitely. I'm actually really interested in that subject. Basically just breaking boundaries through mark making and just essentially everything's been done at this point, but I'm interested in doing, something unique. And so I really admire artists who are successful in doing that. And yeah.
What materials or mediums do you prefer to work with, and why?
Sure. So I would say that the primary materials I use are just so inks, like black ink and then some colored inks and then acrylic. But I do love oils. Um like as I was saying, just painting and oil, like going back to art college. That's basically what what got me into this journey is just oil painting. So I do love oil painting. It's just, you know, it's just more of a practical thing at this point, to be honest. Acrylics just dry faster and you can mix them with ink.
How do you know when a piece is finished?
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the hardest things. For me personally, um, like it happens sometimes where I I I basically keep going and then I realize that it was way better, or someone tells me that they preferred what I had done before, and the issue is that it's original art, so going back, yeah, I deal with this actually. It's just one of the thing is like it's unforgiving. You know, ink, I would say. Um, you can't just go back. Like you can try,
Yeah,
but
once you make a mistake, it's already over.
yeah, there are some good ways. You can kind of the thing is if you go too far, then yeah, it does. That is like a dilemma I deal with quite a bit.
Is there a personal story or emotional experience behind one of your recent works?
Um, hmm. You know what? To be honest, I kind of for the so I think maybe this might be interesting, but the thing is that I work on multiple pieces at the same time, and it's kind of all blur. Um, yeah, I can't even think of something that I've recently done that. It's just I'll have like the different so many different pieces just on the floor, and then just pick one up and basically because I do think that I mean for me personally, if I spend too long in a piece, it takes away some of the spontaneity. Like it can do that, but to be honest, I really don't know. I just have too many artworks. If I could think of one, I would tell you, but I just everything's just a blur.
I see. That's alright. Do you find art to be a form of self-expression or a means of communication with others?
Yes, absolutely. Though I would say like my messages are kind of vague, and I prefer that way. Like I like if someone just makes up their mind as to what a certain piece might mean. I prefer that rather than telling someone what to think. So yeah, communication and self-expression, absolutely.
How do you balance creating art for yourself versus creating for an audience?
Yeah, it's difficult, to be honest. The issue is that once like money comes into play, or once it becomes, I guess, a profession or a job, it's just honestly, I would say that it is difficult because everything is an investment. Like when you're making a piece, like how are you gonna, it's one of those things actually. Like turning a passion into a job, I guess it's not as I don't think it's as glamorous as like it may seem, but so yeah, that to be honest is a struggle. So what I do though, basically, I do try to make the every artwork I make, if it's for, myself or my audience, whatever, I try to make it as genuine as possible, right? But I have to admit that while I'm working on it, I'm thinking like, well, you know, how I'm investing my time, like, how am I gonna turn this into, a way to make some money? So I'm either, okay, am I gonna sell it? Am I gonna make prints, shirts, whatever? Um, to be honest, it happens. I think it can happen to everyone. Sometimes we can't help but do things, in art, that we think people may like. It's just a natural thing.
What do you hope people feel or think when they view your art?
Um, yeah, I think so. Um, I think it depends on the person. So I wouldn't want everyone to feel the same way because it would just be impossible. Some people might just never understand it, and then others might understand my point of view and understand that there's some beauty to it. Um, but I think I'm at the point where, like, if you put your art out there, you're basically, you should be okay with getting any type of, you can't control what people think. But I mean, I would hope that they would find some beauty in it and not just like push it aside and say, oh, it's not for me, or it's too bizarre or whatever.
Has the public reception of your work influenced how you approach future pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to what I was saying about like doing something for myself or for someone else. um, I think, well, actually, a quick point that I'll bring up that I think matters is that I think something that happens is that, like, when you're doing when you are doing an artwork or a series of artworks and they get good feedback, because of that, you might be biased to stick to that same, style of way of drawing, and that kind of might limit your experimentation. So you have to find a balance. Um, between experimentation and then almost keeping it safe, because what if I just started drawing in a way that I've never shown before, and it would just be too bizarre of a change. So I think there has to be a balance.
What are some challenges you faced as an independent artist?
um sure, I would say like stress, um wondering like what am I doing with my life, um like, is this even worthwhile? Should I have done this? Or I would say, stress, when everything depends on, you, basically, there's no like set salary. There's just like, it can be stressful sometimes. So that's just a natural thing, self-doubt, definitely like thinking towards the future, like, I think that that might be it. It's just, when things are going well, you're in a great mood. When you're struggling a bit, you're like, oh, self-doubting yourself. It's just a mixture of emotions, but you just have to believe in yourself. It's just do your best with what you can, with what you have, and you'll be okay.
What advice would you give to other emerging artists?
Um, what advice? So So a few things. I would say that one is that find a way to detach yourself from your art, so that like the thing with artists, or with art now, is that there's the social media aspect to it that never existed. So you will always attach, you know, if let's say, like, if you make an artwork and it doesn't, social media wise, it doesn't have the reception you expected, like, you have to understand that it's not just about it's good art or bad art. It's just there's also an algorithm. There's also this system behind it. You could make a new account and make, in quotations, the best art in the world, and no one would see it. maybe it'd get 2 likes. So it's just you have to understand to not get too attached to your art because the thing with art is that it's it's an expression of yourself. So of course, like if someone criticizes it, you might feel
Personally
you might
attacked.
take it a bit personally. Yeah, like musicians might have that too. So what you have to do is almost just detach yourself from that experience and be like, I agreed that I would show my art to the world. I should be okay. I need to understand that part of doing that might come with these drawbacks, like maybe even criticism, for example. Like, and you have to be okay with that, understand that that's normal. So I think that one's an important one because that's something at the beginning when things like really start taking off, everything seems great, right? But obviously at some point things sort of like plateau, like they should. They'll stay in, a straight line. That's a good thing. That you know, so I think that's one important lesson to learn that this like a career like this is mixed with ups and downs, like life is. Um, and then I guess another advice when it comes to just learning art, just I don't even think you need to go to art school. I just think if you're willing to learn and to figure out a way to do it, it will like nothing's guaranteed in life, but it will increase your chances exponentially. And use resources like Instagram and um, even when I graduated from art school, I was still lost. And then I kind of discovered Instagram. I mean, Instagram had been a thing, but what I'm making a point is that I didn't realize that this was like a thing you could do. Basically, just be an artist in social media if you or use social media to make money as an artist. So I discovered that like literally my last year of art college. So the point is that you don't necessarily need to go to art school, and if you want to, you can figure things out. Because I did.
So you make a living out of your art.
Yeah, yeah. For now, I mean, nothing. I've been doing it for 3 years, but nothing is guaranteed in life.
I have here 10 of personally my favorite art pieces that you made in the last year or so, I think. Uh, so,
Okay.
so Addiction, Chainsaw Massacre, Just Smile, Gucci Bag, Crowd of People, War Pigs, Calavera, Maniac Model, You Better Be Williamson, and Violent Splatter.
That talks about how there's almost like a dependency on pharmaceuticals and people do need medicine, so I'm not against that. I just think it's an industry at the end of the day, so there's money in it. And it's not it's more of a warning, you know. Um People do need medicine. I'm just making a commentary on how some people might take things that they don't need and because it's an industry and it's a business at the end of the day, um not everyone, not necessarily like not everyone who's trying to sell you that has your best intentions in mind. So that's really what addiction is about.
You Better Be Williamson.
Yeah, I saw that as a meme and I thought it was very interesting. And I couldn't help. I will say this, like I did say what I think my art means, but the truth is that sometimes I can't help but put some humor in them. There's certain pieces that have a bit of humor, and that's yes, that's definitely one of them. So I saw that meme online, and I was already making that piece of someone on the computer, and then I saw that meme, and I was like, I just okay, I thought it was interesting, so I kind of just turned it into that. And I like to, I do like humor, so some of my pieces will have some comedy to them. So Yeah, see, that one isn't necessarily like a deep, you know, um, feeling. It doesn't really have like a such a um, deep meaning to it, but it's just so it's just a humor thing, but it's interesting to me.
Do you have a specific meaning for, like, what is your most meaningful work that you ever made?
Like see you in heaven. Um, the first one I ever made. I made like a second one recently, but see you in heaven is one that I've always liked. Like meltdown or mental breakdown. Though I've used that title a few times. Um, how to fight loneliness. It's one with a skull. Um, I think like for me, I've realized that titles really do matter. For my artwork specifically, but yeah, those are usually the pieces that I'm proud of end up being ones that at the time I thought weren't really strong. Um, the thing with like sometimes you're making artwork and you start to hate it because you've been at it for a bit or it's stressing you out. So you develop that like negative emotion to it. So once you step, you know, a bit back, give yourself some space to calm down, you realize, wow, actually that turned out much better than I thought, initially at the time. But yeah, there's a few pieces that I'm actually proud of. Actually, one last bit of advice is that like you can always ask people. You might not hear back from them, and that happened to me quite a few times. But people are busy, so never take it personally. But just as a last bit of advice for any aspiring artist or even anything in life, like it's okay to ask someone. That helped me out a lot because, to be honest, my parents are fine with what I do now, but it used to not be that way. Um, so the way that I convinced myself that to not get up is that I looked at examples of people who were doing it. And so I didn't need my parents' approval. I knew it was a thing. They just didn't understand where I was coming from. And yeah, and reach out to some people because I got some good advice. So yeah, that's essentially it. Thank you for having me. This was nice. It actually helped do some self reflection as well. Thank you.
Um, do you have your socials? Do you want to say?
Sure. Um, I know my name isn't the easiest to pronounce, but my main Instagram is my last name, so it's Perez Banus. My other Instagram right now is freak.fight. And yeah, those are my socials.
All right. Thank you guys for watching SYSTA episode 2. Hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time.